Hello, and thank you for choosing Classeek 15. It's Jack Pepper here, composer, radio presenter and author. I'm very happy to be your guide through these coffee break conversations. We sit down for 15 minutes with classical insiders and stars, helping give you the best advice on how to make a career in classical music. Now, each conversation has a given theme, and today it's audiences and festivals, with the help of Mischa Damev. He's the Bulgarian-Swiss conductor who is the director of the Septembre Musical Montreux-Vevey Festival, one of Switzerland's oldest classical music festivals. The 2024 edition saw music blended with visual arts and even comedy for 8 innovative concerts. All of this in an idyllic setting facing Lake Geneva and the Alps. Among the musician visitors were Christian Yervi and Gauthier Capuçon. Every concert was sold out, with 5,000 people attending. So, what does this audience look like? And what has made the Septembre Musical so successful? Let's find out. My first question for Mischa was to define the spirit of the festival.
In a nutshell, it's just different. Just to understand why I'm saying different, because I've been for about 15 years a concert pianist myself, classical concert pianist. And then I was 25 years a conductor, especially the Russian orchestras, and I've conducted all of them. I was guest conductor of Mariinsky and other orchestras in the world. And then I was an organizer for about 35 years. So all my life has been around classical music, and I've always loved this classical music. So why I'm saying our festival was different, because it was like looking for not the well-trodden path. It was outside in different formats, different ideas about how to present classical music, how to join classical music or make a fusion between classical music, electronic music and other musics. And it was just, my idea to change this, because I've been in this world for so long. I think some changes are quite important nowadays.
So what kind of changes have we seen since you've been at the helm, particularly, for example, the last edition? You mentioned fusion. I know there was a collaboration with Classeek in that space. Just take us into that collaboration and what that difference looks like.
Well, this collaboration was with 3 very talented musicians, a trio, which was doing a wonderful, I would say, reminiscence or interpretation on Bach Goldberg variations, including electronic music and some other instruments. And it was very spherical, it was very atmospherical, it was very fairy tale-like, and it was very well played. And I think this is all about this fusion or other ideas. The musical quality has to be as high as possible. And I think this is really the most important thing in it. And once you have this, you can just, interpretation means actually that you put it in your own words and your own colors, and you can experiment. And I think this is extremely important, because our classical world has been stuck for about 100 and 110 years since the First World War in a ritual which is okay and it's nice, but it's just very old-fashioned. And I think it is very important, in order to reach out for a new audience and for younger people, to be like more the language which is spoken nowadays, without destroying this amazing, timeless music which has been written since 500 years. So that's actually our approach.
And how easy is it to be that open and that you sort of speak about collaboration and fusion? This is the second oldest classical music festival in Switzerland, isn't it? It dates back to the 1940s. I think you've had Stravinsky conduct a program in the 50s, I saw. So how easy is it to have that kind of mindset when you're also so established and so part of the tradition as well?
I think the moment, Jack, and this is really, I think, for younger musicians very important to understand, is the moment you are absolutely sure about something. The moment you think that you are right, of course, looking right and left and listening to whatever people say, but when you feel that this is something important for you, then the choice becomes very easy. Then it's just black and white. It's nothing in between. And I really think that we have to go on. I'm not saying that the old traditional rituals are completely bad and out of fashion, but they must be a new way of not only interpretation, it's more about being creative as a musician, being original, being innovative. I mean, this is what makes music so alive, because each time we do as interpreters or as a composer, you write this 12 different notes, or if you want to quarter notes, then you have 24 and so on and so on. But the moment you write in this language, you are creating something new, which has to be passionate and which has to be also passionate for your audience to listen to. So we are not somebody, to give some pills, to an old patient and in order not to die. We're here to give birth each time to something new. In your case, it would be a composition, or in another case of Bach or Beethoven or Brahms or Shostakovich, to put this piece in order to be like born again and to be brought to life. And I think this is what we have to be very careful of. It's not just, nursing somebody and trying not to have your patient dying. It's not a museum, actually. We're bringing life to each note, which we are recreating. So that was my motivation. So actually asking your question, it is very easy, because I'm completely convinced that we have to go this way.
And can you unpack the word? I'm interested. You say rituals, the rituals in classical music. Can you describe what you mean by that, and maybe some of the rituals that you find are useful for programming and maybe not so useful?
Well, there are conventions in a way. It's the thing that codes, maybe you can also say. It's like you start, for example, a symphonic concert with an overture, and it's always more or less the same. Or then you have a small piece by a contemporary composer, and then it's over very quickly. And then you have a concerto. Usually it's a Mozart or Beethoven or Brahms or Rachmaninoff or whatever. And then after the break, intermission, you have then a symphony, and it's always the same. If it's Beethoven, it's like number 3, 5, and 7. So, and if you're very daring, then it's maybe number 2 or number 1. My God, this is already something extraordinary. Those rituals, I mean, they are so old-fashioned in a way, and we have to break them, because music has never been like this. You know better than me. I mean, in the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century, people have always experimented. And if you look what happened 50 years in our history of music, it was just a revolution. It was amazing, going from Bach to Brahms and to Beethoven's Eroica, and then, 100 years later, you have the Sacre du Printemps in 1913. So it's amazing what we have done. And since the First World War, I would say we are stuck with one of this pattern I was saying, that we are playing always the same repertoire. We are the only thing which is bothering us. Can we do this accelerando a little bit more, or this accent a little bit more? Oh no, the trill is from above and not from underneath. All these kind of things which are not unimportant, but I think it's not what keeps music alive.
So what kind of programs have you seen, curated, worked in as a conductor? What have you seen that's really landed and really worked, that might be different or challenging those rituals? What kind of programs have you seen really successfully?
It's a very good question, Jack, and it's interesting. When I was a concert pianist, and especially a conductor, I was a very traditional conductor. I rarely dared to go, first of all, because I didn't have my own orchestra, so I was a guest conductor. So I would, from time to time, slip something interesting in it. Or, for example, my collaboration, which was an eye-opener for me, was from a serious conductor, if you want to. And then I was approached by John Lord from Deep Purple, and we became great friends. And I was very, very admiring him as a musician and as a friend. And so we started a collaboration, and we did some concerts together with pieces he had written and with Deep Purple material. And I realized that there were no boundaries between the different styles. It was like passionate musicians and non-passionate musicians, because the passionate musicians are usually very good musicians. And the non-passionate musicians, they could be jazz or rock or heavy metal or rap or hip-hop. They're just not passionate about it, so they're quite mediocre. And I think what we have to do, and you know this as a composer probably, is create feelings. We create feeling, and this feeling can be only created if we have passion, 100% passionate behind it. So yeah, it's been probably this very classical upbringing which has showed to me that I had to go on. And also it was COVID, which showed to me that, classical music in Switzerland, I'm talking about Switzerland, among the young people was completely disappearing. And the interest was not there anymore. Not because they didn't like it, but because they just didn't care about it. So I thought we have really to open new path for them to enter, because it would be more than a shame if we would lose this amazing, timeless treasure, which is called music. And I'm actually not saying classical music, because I hate this word, actually. And you know as good as I know that this word wasn't used in the 19th century, or especially not in the 18th century. So it's good music and bad music. So yeah, I'm just opening up. It's never too late. I'm 61, but I think if you're curious, there's always a good time to start doing something in this direction.
Well, it's certainly a message that seems to have landed with the Septembre Musical Festival. I think it was 3,000 young people from the region attended at the 2023 edition. So you have quite a footprint with young people. How do you reach, when it comes to audiences, and you're trying to reach the broadest possible audience, how do you as a programmer or an artist reach those people and new people and younger audiences?
Well, like many of my colleagues, we have very low prices. I mean, the ticket price is very low. I mean, you can, as a young person, you can come for 5 Swiss francs, which is not too much really, and listen to music. The other thing is, it's not actually the price. What we realize more and more is this customer journey, in the sense that you have to design the whole thing. They have really to want to come to the concert. And I think one thing which we did maybe wrong, my generation, maybe the previous two, is just to say to young people who didn't know much about classical music, you have to love it because it is good. Nowadays, even to my children and to my grandchildren, I cannot say you have to love it. They love it or they don't. So it's actually inviting them to this sort of process of creativity. And there are many, many ways of doing so. But what is important is that we are not talking concerts anymore. We're talking just, like shows or just an experience, which is a musical experience. But you can also, there is food and beverage. There is a whole design journey around it, where you can really sort of enter this world of Beethoven, even being dressed like in this times, or we do this sort of battles. We use actually the names of what people know nowadays, and especially the technical means also to attract people and to say, well, we have a concert which is an experience for you, which is for the eyes and for the ears. So you have maybe Bach, but at the same time it's mixed maybe with Nirvana, and you have an amazing light show at the, very carefully designed light show, which gives also something to it. You add something to it because we have, of course, a different generation nowadays. So yeah, there are many, many ways, and I'm not saying that we know all the ways which are successful, but we're trying out. That's why we are called ourselves a Classeek lab, because it is like a lab, really. And and it's a movement. And we're, of course, not the only people to do this. I mean, I think this is like a very good virus nowadays, that many organizers and especially many musicians are creating new sort of formats to reach out for a new audience, because I think this is extremely important.
And is this an understanding that has changed in your own life? As you say, going from student, pianist, conductor, director, did you always understand that? Or when you were starting out, for example, did you see audiences and the classical world differently?
I saw it differently. And I think also the classical audience has changed over the last 40 years. It's different. I mean, I would say like 40 years back, when you would say, let's say, Arturo Benedetti Michelangeli, or Georgi Schiffer, or Alexis Weissenberg, or Nikita Magalov, if these people would give a concert, the concert was always sold out. Or Karajan conducting, or, Nowadays, if you talk to a younger audience in your age, who are not musicians, and you tell them Christian Telemann, for example, or you say Anne-Sophie Mutter, or you say Leonidas Kavakos, they don't know who you're talking about. And it's not because it's something they dislike, it's just because there's no interest in it. It's just not hype. And they associate always classical music with an elderly audience. They don't know when to applaud. They don't know the dress code. They think that they don't belong to this, that they think this is elitist. And as long as they think so, they will never go to a concert. They will maybe listen on their phone and on their playlist. And they very often mistaken classical music for movie music, which is very often the same, or at least it uses the same language. Musical language. So I think it is very, very important that we listen also to the new generation, what they would like to have, and not only just to teach them, what they should like to.
So for a young artist, emerging artist listening, maybe wanting to be programmed in a festival, say, what would you say is the most important thing for them to keep in mind in order to get that kind of visibility on a festival level?
I think the most important is, beside the fact that they have to be very good instrumentalists. And as I said before, if you're passionate 100% about what you're doing, you are probably also a very good instrumentalist. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, not work, but it's a lot of struggle maybe with the score, which is good, with yourself. But that's what everybody does, the good people. I would say the most important thing, just listen to yourself and never be afraid to go too far in your ideas, if they are original and if they are genuine. If you really feel like it and you want to do something crazy, even your parents are saying, this is crazy, you cannot combine this kind of music, or you cannot play the violin this way or so. If you feel very strong about it, do it, because you have one chance in life. And it's all about creativity. Musicianship means creativity. And we have to be on the front of creativity, because this is the only way of being creative without hurting people physically. And I think this is so important in our times, to give this motivation to people that there are no boundaries in your head. Just do the things you feel they are right for you. And I think if they do it, then they will be very interesting for me as an organizer. Because always, and just bear in mind, 40 years ago, if you had not won 2 or 3 big competitions or played with one of the top orchestras, you had no chance to make a career. Nowadays, everybody has a chance. Thanks to Facebook and all the social medias, thanks to YouTube, thanks to you. This chance is amazing. It is really like feeling in the 19th century, 18th century. So everybody has a chance nowadays to have an audience. So just be creative.
Just do it. I like that. Wear your Nike gear, after all. Mischa Damev, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack.
And if you enjoyed that chat, there are plenty more, covering topics like classical radio stations, injury, and music's relationship to the brain. The entire Classeek 15 series can be heard on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and online at classeek.com. There you can also discover their latest video series. Oh yes, we exist in video form too. It's called Insights by Classeek, and you can find out all about those series and the subscription on their website. And whilst you're online, don't forget to hit follow on social media. It's at Classeek Music. Thanks so much for joining me, Jack Pepper. Always a pleasure, and I hope to have you here again very soon.